Hello. Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to A Mother's Journey to Holistic Health and Healing. I'm so glad you're here and thank you for listening. I just really want to take the time to thank you for coming to the show and listening and tuning in. I appreciate your loyalty and showing up, and I trust that you're gaining value from it. And I would really appreciate it if in return you could also leave a review wherever you're listening from, whatever platform. If you could kindly leave a review. Also, feel free to share it with whomever you feel would benefit from it. That will help the podcast grow and help others in any way that it can. So would really appreciate that. And today in this episode, we are getting into the divine feminine. Now that we have the colder months coming, right? The winter solstice is approaching us December 21st, I believe. We're shifting into the winter. I wanted to get into how we can honor the divine feminine energy within us and how we can really use this time to use as self-reflection, as growth, as transformation, to kind of plant new seeds of what we want for the new year, to help us see what we want to let go of that maybe is not serving us anymore, and how we want to work through some of that, maybe those shadow work, right? So I'm going to dive into this podcast episode. We're going to get into, what is the masculine and feminine energy, why they're both important for balance and what makes us who we are, right? And it's in everything. And some of the characteristics when it comes to the masculine and feminine energies, and why I specifically started to really cultivate this starting last year, January, and being really more intentional with tapping into my divine feminine energy. This whole year, really, I've been practicing and working on that intentionally. And because also it's just been feeling really good. And so I just want to share that. I want to share my story, why and where I'm at now, why it's helped me, why it's been powerful and empowering. And we'll also talk about at the end, we'll save some ways that you can tap into your feminine energy, right? This winter season, and maybe even just throughout the whole year when you can. So we're going to get into that today. And but first, before we get started, I just want you, wherever you're at, to take a moment and maybe close your eyes with me if you're able to. And let's just tap into our breath for a minute, maybe placing your hand on your heart. We're just going to slow down for a moment, put pause on the busy day, and breathing in a nice deep inhale. Inhaling for 4, holding it for 4, and slowly releasing it for 4. So if you can do that at your own pace. Let's do that one more time. And one last time. Great, thank you. So I really think that, before we get into the episode, it's a nice way to center ourselves and just feel a bit more calm and grounded if you haven't had time to check in with your breath. Hopefully that was a quick little pause for you to do so, to connect with yourself and just slow down a bit. And that's also what this feminine energy is also about, is slowing down. So let's just dive right into it. What got me into tapping into my divine feminine energy? And it wasn't something that was intentional, like, oh, let me start, doing things to tap into my feminine energy. Like, let me do this and this. Okay. It wasn't anything like that. It wasn't really until I started being more intentional with slowing down, right? That I started after that, doing a bit more research and reading books and podcasts and things like that, where I realized, oh yeah, and this was around the winter. So I was like, that's what's going on here. Like, that's what my intuition wanted. That's what my soul wanted, is it wanted for me to slow down. And at that time, I had participated, I was in a meeting, right? A Zoom meeting with some friends, kind of like a webinar. And this is one of the things that we talked about. We talked about shadow work. We talked about, what we wanted to do to bring in for the new year, what we wanted to let go of. And, I wrote down some things. And from then on, that's what I intentionally started working on. And I knew what I wanted to let go of. And I've known this for some time now. It's just been the applying it, right? The integrating it that is always a challenge. And that can be within any kind of habit that we're trying to break. And so, showing up to the meeting, the virtual meeting, journaling, really intentionally slowing down, changing the patterns, breaking cycles, managing my mind has really brought me to where I'm at right now. So I'm in a totally different place when I was January of this year. That was like, my girls were almost going to be a year. I was still navigating postpartum, and I needed it. I know what I needed. I needed to slow down, right? So if you are like me, right, you have traits of, you're always on the go. You're always on the go. You always feel like there's something that has to be done. You're always like maybe doing the dishes, doing the laundry, cooking, cleaning, doing the vacuuming, I don't know, doing all the things around the house. Maybe getting all the things ready for your kids, picking up the room, the toys, that before you know it, time's run out and it's already bedtime, or you got to get the kids ready for their bath and bedtime, that you feel like, darn, like I didn't get that much time to spend time with my kids, to play with my kids, because I was so busy doing the dinner and doing the cleaning and this and that, prepping for the next day, right? That you feel like, I didn't get much time to spend with my kids today, right? And that kind of like rolls in to the following day and the next day and the next day. It's kind of like a cycle. And then here come your weekends, where you kind of have a little bit more of that time. And so for me, I don't remember exactly, when I realized this, because I've always known that has been one of the things that, in order for me to be more present and to bring more joy into my life and fun and calm, which are some of my key values, which I encourage you to do, is write down your key values, what's important to you, and also importantly, coming into the new year, how do you want to feel, right? Reflect on how this past year of 2024, maybe a few words of how you've felt, an emotion. Write down some emotions of how you've felt strongly throughout the year. And of course, it might ebb and flow. There might be different ones, but see what comes up the most. And then maybe for the next year, for 2025, write down, how do you want to feel? Right? How do you want to feel instead? What do you want to bring more of into your life in terms of your emotions and how you're feeling? And that will help guide you as to determine, the kind of actions that you do, if they're in alignment with these values and how you want to feel. So anyway, going back to that, that was a battle. Like, I have 4 dogs at home, okay? And then my girls, I have little girls who are twins. They're 20 months today. I'm recording this on November 27th, 2024. And so it gets crazy. And I have anxiety already. Like, I've done a lot of work on my anxiety. And it's not as bad as it used to be, right? And so having the house semi-clean, right? I have to vacuum the house every day and in the mornings, because there's always a lot of dog hair, And so I feel a lot better. My anxiety goes down when I vacuum. I just feel, and I've been working on kind of, not having to feel like the need to do it all the time, right? To kind of just be okay with it, not feeling to be quote unquote perfect, to not be doing all the time, so I've been challenging myself in those areas. So what I realize and what I recognize over time is that all those things to try to get it quote unquote clean, perfect, or, have the house look a certain way, right? Is taking away my energy, my time from being present with my children, from spending one-on-one time or time with them, right? With my family or with my partner, with my husband also. And so I've really had to be intentional with obviously recognizing that, becoming self-aware when I'm in the moment and saying, wait a minute, you could put the dishes down, you can do them later, they can wait till tomorrow or whenever. Go, I don't know, spend some time, with your hubby. Go sit on the couch, go sit on the carpet with your kids and let's, with the girls, let's go play with them, let's read. So I've been really intentional with doing that. But in this process, I have also had to really strengthen my meditation practice, really strengthen my practice to creating more stillness into my day. And it's taken me, a long time to really get to where I'm at now, years into having a consistent practice, because it's changed, obviously, from when I didn't have children to when I had my son, to then being, a mom with one child, and then the three of them, right? So it's changed. It's constantly changed. And I'm sure it might be the case for you. And for a lot of my clients, the challenging part is being able to stick with it. And so that's what I get to do with my clients now, because that's something that I've really strengthened that skill in. And so really for me, it's going back to my values of what's important to me, to spending that time, that downtime with my children, to remembering what brings me joy, what fills my cup, and letting go of the conditioning of having to have the house clean, have everything ready, have everything all together, right? Letting go of that conditioning, that socialization. And a lot of that we see, we get that from our caregivers, our mom, I don't know, our abuelas, whomever, our tias, whoever was your caretaker as a young child. That's something you might have noticed, that maybe your mom was always cleaning and doing all these things, because my mom was, and that's where I get it, right? She was always cleaning and she was always doing this and that. And for some reasons, that's a way that people manage their anxiety. That's how they do things to maybe distract or keep themselves busy from maybe a trauma or uncomfortable situation or anything like that. So for me, that was also a thing, right? It's a need to control, right? Anxiety, a need to control. I need to have this clean and I'll feel better, or I need to do this, right? So having recognized all these things, I encourage you to take a look at yourself. And this is where the feminine energy comes in, and where we use this time to go inward, to do the shadow work, to look at, yes, our beautiful qualities about ourselves, our strengths, but also those qualities that also make up who we are, but the ones that we also want to improve on. And meeting them with some acceptance, self-acceptance, and compassion and love, that there are those dark pieces of us, or pieces of us that we don't like, and that's okay. But realizing that, yeah, those are some things that I want to work on and improve on. So that's where I was. I recognized the things that I wanted. I recognized what I needed to let go of, the behaviors, the thought patterns, the cycles, where it came from, and how it made me feel. Because in that process of always doing and doing and doing, and not taking a moment to sit, even just for a few moments to rest, to take a breather, to take a break, it was always constantly going. And I see that in my mom, because that's where I get it from, And not that I'm blaming her or anything, and I have no judgment towards that or resentment. And I've learned that, right? And that's from my own awareness. And so I use that as kind of like a gift, a learning experience, that's something that has come to my awareness, and I have the power to change it and work on it. And so that's been my work this whole year. This whole year has been about recognizing those habits, those patterns and behaviors when I feel like I have to be constantly doing to control, to ease the anxiety, and realizing, yes, at the same time, that's also not beneficial for our health, right? Because it's having this affecting our nervous system, right? It's triggering that flight, right, and freeze mechanism in our nervous system, right? The flight or fight freeze. And there's also another part to it, the fawn. But that can have an impact on our health, right? Like our cortisol, our hormones, our emotional health, our mental health, right? So being in this constant state of doing, which is a part of the masculine energy, being productive, taking action, can lead to some issues with our mental health, mental disorders, health issues, emotional health issues, depression, anxiety, right? Maybe even digestive issues for some people, difficulty sleeping, insomnia, people pleasing, right? There is just a lot of things that can come into when we don't set boundaries and when we don't dive into our feminine energy. And that is dormant for many of us. And like I said, like me, because we live in this fast-paced world, this society that has us always constantly doing. You got to be productive or you're not successful. You got to be productive or you're a failure. You got to be productive or you're not doing enough, right? It's this constant that creates these limiting beliefs that give us an emotion of feeling like we're not good enough, or I got to do more. And this can create helplessness, and this can create overwhelm and frustration. And so when I recognize and realize that, right, I was so caught up in my head and in my physical body that I neglected a lot of my mental, my emotional, and my spiritual health. And so that's been a lot of my work and my inner work. So after that class, right, I made a commitment to myself. That I was going to start to deepen my meditation practice. And not by deepening, I don't mean like spending hours and 30 minutes or 45 minutes in meditation. It was starting small and showing up, whether it was 5 minutes, 10 minutes, same thing for my yoga practice, creating a prayer ritual, a meditation ritual with my incense, with my candles, with my prayer, with my oracle cards, with my journaling, just different things incorporating into my day so that I can create more time for introspection and creating more self-awareness. So I would just recommend starting off with, again, like I said, writing a list of what are some emotions you felt for the 2024 year? What do you want to feel instead for the 2025 year? And your values. And so that way you can see what are some of the things you can brainstorm, and I'll share some ideas. What are some things that can help you with tapping into that energy so you can feel that way instead of, the opposite. So what's the difference between the masculine and the feminine energy, right? So when we dive into Chinese medicine or Chinese philosophy, it's also known as the yin and the yang. And I don't know if you're familiar with the symbol, right? The yin and the yang. It's black and white, right? And I got this tattoo before I had my son, as a matter of fact, with a friend of mine on my solar plexus, this yin yang tattoo. The reason why I got it at the time is because I was striving for balance, right? And I think that where I'm at now, I am satisfied. I feel good about what my quote unquote balance means to me, and not seeking the perfect version of balance. So that's really important to mention, is that there's no such thing as a perfect balance. It's what feels good to you. And that's what I help my clients do. And so it's like the yin and the yang. It's the dark and the light, right? The sun and the moon. It's, for example, the masculine, like I mentioned, is associated with the productivity, the action, the doing. The feminine is more associated with the rest, the slowing down, making a time for creativity, right? I'm sorry, the masculine is the yang and the feminine is the yin. And so the rest, slowing down, taking the time to daydream, thinking about what you want, what your desires are, nourishing your body, nourishing your mind, your spirit, creating practices or rituals, things that you feel would do that for you. Going inwards, like I said, reflecting on the parts of you that you feel you want to improve on, but that you can still love and show compassion to, right? Maybe it's like holding grudges. Maybe it's like feeling shamed about something. Maybe it's, so one place, and I wrote down some of the places that maybe you can start to think about, because this is what really helped me. Okay, so areas to explore your shadow. This is maybe like our darker parts of ourselves, what we would call as our darker selves, is your emotions, right? Your emotions. What does it feel like when you feel shame, when you feel guilt, regret, fear, sadness, anger, anxiety? Like, what is it that maybe triggers that, right? Why do you feel like, do you block those emotions? And why? What are some of those triggers, right? Because that can be maybe a sign that maybe that's something that needs to be healed. What emotions do you try to avoid? Like, let's say, for example, you're afraid of speaking up your truth about something that you feel really just strongly about, but you don't speak it because you're afraid of creating conflict, right? You don't want the peace to be broken. You don't want there to be any kind of like disagreements or fight or arguments. You don't like that discomfort. That was one for me, right? Realizing that, and that I can speak up, I can share my truth, I can share my opinions, my voice matters, right? So really doing a lot of work around that. Then also maybe exploring your values, like, again, going back to your values. Are these values authentic to you? Do they still feel relevant to you? What's important to you and for your future? Your beliefs. What are some limiting beliefs that you feel that you hold? Is it the feeling of not being good enough, that you have to do things perfectly, or that maybe you're self-doubting yourself a lot, or, anything like that you feel like you can't make good decisions? Like, what are those self-limiting beliefs? Behaviors and patterns. What are the things, what are the actions, what happens when you feel those certain way, when you feel the fear, when you feel the anxiety, when you feel the sadness, right? The guilt, the shame, like, what are the behaviors? What are the patterns that you do as a result? Do you emotional eat? Do you spend too much time on social media? Do you just kind of dissociate and, I don't know, maybe just you kind of go to yourself, right? So what are those behaviors and patterns that you have, your attitude? Like, what's your perspective like on life at that time? And this might be a really helpful time to, like I said, go in deeper during this time to self-reflect. And it's not to judge yourself. It's not that at all, or to criticize all these things that you feel is quote unquote wrong with you, because there is nothing wrong with you. You are whole, you are complete just as you are now. But you want to work on yourself. You want to be a better person, a better mom for yourself, the best that you can, the healthiest version that you can for yourself, right? And so that's where we start, by little, taking pieces at a time to think about, what's something that I feel like really strongly that I want to do better at, because that will make me feel better. That will make me feel like I can be more present with my children. I feel like this is really taking a heavy weight on me. This is what I want to let go of. This is what I want to bring more out of. So journaling is a really big part of this reflection, and again, not forgetting about the things that feed your soul, what brings you nourishment, what brings you light, right? What makes you feel good. So those are some of the differences when we talk about the masculine and the feminine energy, right? And so here are some ways that you can start to tap into your feminine energy. And it's not like you have to wait till the winter time to do it, right? You can start doing these things now. You could do them throughout the whole entire year. And we have to be realistic, because obviously, again, like I said, we live in this fast-paced world. We're busy working moms. We have kids. They have activities. We're always on the go doing things. But at the same time, you have to remember that you are worth taking care of you. You are the most important person to take care of yourself. Nobody else is going to do it. And so taking that self-responsibility and accountability and believing to yourself to the core that you are worth taking the time to take care of yourself, it's really important that you make that commitment. because that will help remind you that, yes, my needs matter too, right? Taking that few minutes of 5 to 10 minutes to write in a journal and self-reflect on what you want to improve on, what you want to let go of, taking some time to be outdoors a little bit more, right? So really taking some time to nourish your health, for your health and your well-being. So here are some things that you can do. I wrote down 7 things that you can do to strengthen and tap into your feminine energy. Again, I just want to emphasize that we want to start off small, right? So that you can build the practice and build the habit, but make that commitment to yourself and understand that, yes, some days are going to go better than others. Some days are going to be really busy, but make the commitment to yourself and to saying that and believing that something is better than nothing. Because we live in this fast-paced world of masculine energy, the majority of our time, it's okay if it's not, every day, right? Do your best to do what you can to slow down and tap into this energy, and you will start to feel and see the difference, not just in your mood, but also like your thoughts and your beliefs and how you act and move throughout your day. So one of them would be, again, journaling, right? Taking this time, this is a big part of introspection and self-reflection, is really taking this time to think about, okay, well, what do I want to change? What do I want to improve on? And if you run out of ideas, there's so many things you can reflect on. You can maybe reflect on things that you're grateful for. You can reflect on the past and where you're currently at. You can maybe write down what your desires were for the next year, what you want to work and accomplish, right, with your health and your wellness. You could journal on what you want to bring more into your life of. Maybe it's letting go of some of those perfectionist tendencies or all or nothing thinking. Where in your life is it showing up in your actions and your habits, right? And increasing your self-awareness. And this is a lot of work that I do with my clients. So again, it just starts with one thing at a time. And as you start to increase your self-awareness on some of the things you want to improve on, it can get overwhelming. So journal writing, spending a few minutes, it doesn't have to be an hour, 30 minutes, right? Even just taking 5 minutes, 10 minutes out of your busy day. Maybe in the mornings when you wake up, maybe a break during your work day, maybe before bed, or reading, right? That's a time to slow down. The next one is meditation, right? Meditation and breath work. Again, it does not have to take tremendous amounts of time. When you feel your brain telling you don't have time, ask yourself, do I have 5 minutes to meditate, to focus on my breathing, to pull up a YouTube video that's going to help me with my breath, that's going to help me ease my anxiety or my stress? I promise you, the more that you practice it, your nervous system is going to recognize that, and you're going to be able to respond to stressful situations in a more calm and responsive way instead of reacting or overreacting. And it also helps you to strengthen your mindfulness practice, to being more present and in the moment when you want to be, fully in that moment with your children, instead of having your mind somewhere elsewhere stressing about something else. It will help strengthen that skill. So journaling for one, or reading. 2, the meditation and breath work. 3, maybe more gentle movement. So instead of going out for your usual runs or heavy lifting, high intensity workouts, maybe you do a little bit less of that and you make room for gentle movement. You make room for walks, maybe outdoors, and more time out in nature, for yoga, for stretching. So that way you are giving yourself this joy, this fun, and it's not as vigorous, right? So gentle movement, that has been one thing that I've been really working on this whole year. Is I really cut back on my weightlifting and running, and because it helped me feel better. I felt good in terms of my nervous system. I wasn't activated. I wasn't in fight or flight. It really helped to heal my nervous system when I focused on gentle movement. And that's a hard thing for a lot of my clients to do. They have a hard time letting go of feeling like they have to be sweating all the time and getting their heart rate all the time. And while that is helpful, remember the bigger picture, right? It's not going to affect you and hurt you in a negative way if you are doing walks and yoga. Like that is still just as beneficial for your health. And so that's another one, is creating more gentle movement into your day. Number 4, rest and sleep, right? Your sleep hygiene. Do you need to maybe prioritize your sleep? Are you staying up too late? Are you watching too much shows? Are you scrolling on your phone before bed? Do you need to create more boundaries in terms of your sleep hygiene so that way you can have a good rest, a good sleep? How about, and then number 5, the food, nourishing your body. So what is it that nourishes your body? What makes you feel good? Versus the foods that don't make you feel good, that make you feel sluggish. Like, do you like warm soups that are filled with vegetables or stews? Do you like maybe fresher foods? Like, what is it that you feel like nourishes your body? Is it one of your favorite home cooked meals or traditional meals? Like, we have a lot of Mexican food in my family, and there are a lot of meals that I love to prepare in the wintertime. And those are for sure food for the soul. So nourishing foods. Do you need to eat more fruits and vegetables and hydrate with more water or herbal teas? Number 6 is finding or maybe writing down like affirmations, right? Or having particular prayers that you say at a certain time of your day. Affirmations written down to make you feel more at peace and more at whole, or to remind you like, it's okay for me to slow down. It's okay for me to rest. It's safe for me to fill in the blank. I am worthy of this. My needs matter. Like, what are the affirmations you need to write down, that you need to repeat daily to remind yourself that it's okay to go inward, to slow down, that you don't always have to be doing? What are those things that you could say to yourself? What is a prayer that you could create, right? Or is it a prayer that you already say that you ask for help and guidance? Maybe you're praying to God, to Mother Mary, to Jesus, to your archangels, to whoever, and you're asking for their support, right? To help you feel grounded and to help you slow down and relax, to create more peace. And so that would be, what is that, 5, 6? I'm trying to think of what number that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. And then 7, creativity, tapping into your creativity. Maybe it's coloring, drawing, music. Do you like to play an instrument? Would you like to maybe learn how to play the guitar, the drums, the flute? That's something I've gotten really into this whole year too. Now that I mention it and think about it, is I've been doing some drumming here at home, more singing, using my rattles. I'm not much of an artist. I'll leave that for my son, but definitely music has been one that's come in more into this year, and singing. You don't have to be like this, professional singer, right? So, to notice those judgmental, criticizing thoughts of, I can't sing, or I don't sing good, or I'm not this and that. Think about, well, how would you feel if you feel like you could be a bit more comfortable in singing or playing an instrument or listening to music that makes you feel good? And maybe you do that. Maybe you listen to music while you take a bath. Maybe you light a bubble bath. Maybe you put some candles. Maybe you have a time for you to enjoy some herbal tea, right? So really creating maybe any kind of ritual. So I guess that would be number 8, creating a ritual where it helps you feel grounded. So that maybe some of these ideas, a couple of them resonated with you. Maybe it was the journaling. Maybe it was having a time for you to take tea and read, or maybe it's a bath or meditating, right? Maybe make a list of some of the ones that you feel like interest you the most, and start doing them for at least 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and see how you feel. And reflect on that and journal how you feel before and after. I promise you that after sticking with it, showing up for yourself, you're going to be so happy and proud that you did. You're going to feel such a huge difference in how you feel mentally, emotionally. You're going to feel more connection to creator, to the spirit, to maybe to the mother earth. You're going to feel more balance, which is what this part of the work does, is to help balance out your masculine energy with your feminine energy. And we need both. Both need to coexist for us to feel more balance, right? Is working on all parts of ourself. So I hope that gave you some ideas to help you get started. And, again, just approaching it with self-compassion, and that every day is not going to go as to plan, but can you create at least 5 minutes to fit in one of those that I mentioned? And maybe there's something else that you thought of that I didn't share, right? Whatever it is that makes you feel joy, cuddling with your babies, reading with them, have that list. Create a time where you can practice it, and you will be happy and thankful that you did. Okay, so I hope that was helpful for you. Now's the time, right? We're in the season. The season is changing. We're going into the winter, the colder months. It's time to reflect. It's time to create what you want for the 2025 year, to think about what you want to let go of, bring in more new. What is it that you want to bring more of into 2025? What is it that you want to let go? Remember to meet yourself with self-compassion as you reflect on your shadow work, the things that you want to improve on. And that's what makes up who you are, and that's okay, and that's beautiful. And that this is all part of the inner work, of the healing, of the journey, right? Is taking one step at a time. You deserve to be your best, healthiest self, and you deserve to have the time to take care of yourself. Your needs matter. You are worth taking the time to take care of your health and well-being. So don't forget that. All right, friends. Well, thank you so much for tuning and listening in today. I hope you have a wonderful, blessed Thanksgiving with you and your loved ones, and take good care, and I'll catch you on the